Well, howdy hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the... Howdy hey. Anyway, welcome back to the channel. This week, I think it's interesting. You remember my little series From Book to Film? Yeah, so anyway, I have another little entry for that. I have a book which I watched the movie and never finished, and I thought, that would be a perfect entry, let's just go ahead and do that. So I did, long story short. Long, fascinating story short. Okay, enough preliminaries from me. Let's just get right to it. The book in question, Corelli's Mandolin, a novel by Louis de Bernieres. This book was originally published as Captain Corelli's Mandolin in Britain, and the name change took place in the States. That publication was 1994 by Vintage Books, a division of Random House. As usual, just a little bit about the author. Louis de Bernieres was born December 8, 1954 in London, England. He was educated in Manchester and London, and prior to becoming a full-time writer, he worked as a mechanic, a motorcycle messenger, and also was an English teacher in Colombia, the country. Since his first publication in 1990, he has become a prolific writer, and many of his novels are set in different countries around the world, such as Colombia, also Australia, Turkey, his native England, and also the Greek island in Corelli. Life experiences that influenced that novel are his joining the army at age 18, although he left after 4 months, and his being an amateur musician, being self-trained in flute, guitar, clarinet, and yes, mandolin. This book is set on the Greek island of Cephalonia. You're going to have to forgive my pronunciations, most of them are approximate. I had to look it up to find out that that is a real place, which has enjoyed a bit of a tourism surge since the book and the movie came out. The novel takes place during events leading up to, during, and after World War II, and covers the first Italian and then German occupation of the island. There are so many characters and all these little plot threads concerning them, which contributes to the overall richness and denseness of the plot. Most of the action centers on the small-town doctor Ioannis, his daughter Pelagia, which I just learned was pronounced that way thanks to the movie. I was pronouncing it Pelagia, which is still kind of in my head, her betrothed fisherman-turned-soldier Mandras, and the Italian soldier Antonio Corelli, he of the mandolin-owning variety. Corelli is billeted with the doctor and his daughter during said first occupation, and romance blossoms between Pelagia and the soldier against the backdrop of World War II. But this novel is so much more than that. As said, first you have the background characters serving to help the place come alive, and you care very much about each and every one of them, from the slothful priest, who is very overweight and that is very much commented on, which gets a bit much, but again, this was another thing common to novels and authors of the time. Anyway, this priest finds new purpose in fighting the enemy in his own way. And then there are the two village men who consider themselves on opposite sides of the political spectrum, but they come together over their mutual hatred of their common enemy. What this novel really is, it's commonly billed as a romance, but what it really is about the horrors of war. And horrors they are. The author does not flinch from portraying the realities of war. There are incompetent leaders, there are soldiers being sent on missions, there is the mind-numbing boredom of the long slog, and there are the myriad different gut-wrenching, sometimes literally, ways in which constant war can destroy both the body and the mind. Mandras, for example, is a sad casualty, first of the former and second of the latter. He signs up unhesitatingly when the island prepares for battle, and many events later, which we don't really hear from him, but he turns up at the doctor's house barely alive. They are able to restore his body, but his mind is never the same. He is easily duped into joining a purported resistance force that has its own agenda. And in service of this force, he joins in murder, rape, pillage, thievery. In short, he's becoming everything he purports to hate, and at the end he tries to rape his own fiancée. His is a very sad story indeed, in more ways than one. However, not every character in the book gets it so bad. Here are my favorite characters. Drusilla, Mandras's mother. She is described as profoundly ugly. If there is one thing that's not really great about this book besides the fat shaming, it's the fact that the women are described through the male gaze and really no other way. Again, this was the early 90s. This is what we had in books overall. But she is one of the strongest characters. She is aware of her own son's inadequacies, and becomes even more so when he returns wounded. She breaks in when he is attempting to harm Pelagia, and does not hesitate. She pulls a weapon to defend the girl, and she disowns her son at once. It is clear this is not an easy choice for her to make, but it is the clear choice, and she will make it unhesitatingly. Another character I really liked was Bunny Warren, known as Bunios, on the island. He is a minor character who shows up later in the book and is a very helpful but also a bit of comic relief. He is a British officer who parachutes in secret and keeps relaying messages back to his command, who doesn't seem to really care about said messages. He was chosen for the mission because he understands Greek. Unfortunately, said Greek is ancient Greek, and that he only understands because he's read it in books, which means he constantly pronounces it wrong. Not being a total loss, he eventually learns modern Greek, but still manages to speak it in a British accent, and sprinkles in many British sayings such as "what ho," and assures everyone that everything will be tickety-boo. He is quite endearing. Lastly, I have to call out Carlo Gercio. Carlo is one of the rare characters who speaks to us in the first person, for the most part. He is a very important character who has a lot going on. If nothing else, he is a necessarily closeted homosexual. We follow his army career before he comes to Greece. Things are already not going well in the war at all, and he has come to hate it. And one of the things getting him through is his love for one of his fellow soldiers. That soldier does eventually meet his demise, and Carlo is transferred to Corelli's regiment. He also gains affection for Corelli, although it's more loyalty, as nothing can take the place in his heart of Francisco was his name, the other fellow. Now Carlo too is eventually killed by the Germans. It is war after all, and again, this was at a point where pretty much any gay character in a story is going to eventually meet their demise. I remember the first time it was a play. I saw a play, I think it was about 10 years ago, that recent, that I saw one with two main gay characters, and I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, and at the end, just nothing bad had happened. I was just like, oh my god, nothing bad had happened. And it took me a little time to realize why nothing bad had happened. Because nothing bad has to happen. And I think that just goes to show how tropes, be they bad or be they good, can just be part of a story, and you don't necessarily even question them when they're so common that they're all around you. So it's good to try and be aware of things like that. Anyway, tangent over. So Carlo is killed in the war. He sacrifices his life for Corelli's. He entrusts his secret through writing for only a select few after his death, and on reading it they understand and appreciate him all the more and honor his memory through the years. Carlo is arguably the heart and soul of the book. He's a character who you know is probably going to meet his demise, but you savor the moments you have with him while he's there. The book is, as you may have guessed, most excellent overall. It produced so many different emotions, and that stuck with me long after I had read it. I instantly bought it, and I didn't read it again until just recently for this video, but I didn't have to. Like I said, it just it stuck with me so much. Now, I will say it's just as good the second time through. The author took pains to be as historically accurate as possible. Instead of sticking to just books, he even interviewed the older people of the island that were around at that time to get a clearer picture of what it was like. That authenticity comes through, and it's hard to duplicate that just through imagination. You can tell even just as a reader. There are many striking parallels to events of the nowadays. There is one chapter in particular regarding a pamphlet listing the accomplishments of Il Duce, but it is incredibly sarcastic, listing the way he has supposedly made things so much better and all his wonderful qualities, and that in particular was a heck of a read. I would love to share some selections, but the copyright is still very much in effect, so I won't go there, but I will implore you to just, yes, go read this book. Read this book. The movie. What I go through for this channel. So to go back, I read the book some years ago and was just overwhelmed by all the emotions it produced and all the harrowing descriptions of war. And it was so incredibly good that, of course, I was looking forward to seeing what the film did. It wasn't going to be exactly like the book. They never are. They can't be, because you're shifting mediums, and what works for one medium won't work for the other, etc. So I knew going in they were going to change some things. But the novel was just so amazing and emotional that they couldn't fail to duplicate some of that. So with that in mind, not long after the movie came out, I went ahead and watched it, fresh off the book, and I got about halfway before I turned it off. Honestly, it's a miracle I got that far. And I never went back. I never had the desire to put myself through that again. Until now. Wow. Wow. Okay, let me make a quick parallel. My husband is a big Wheel of Time fan, the book series. He's read every one of the books several times, and he was so psyched when the TV series was announced and, waiting every day and checking the news and, oh, this person's cast, etc. Then he watched it, and it's a wonder nothing got thrown at the TV. Now, it's not that it's a bad series. It's not a bad series. It's that they changed it so much from the source material. I said they're going to change something, different medium, you have to change some things because they just won't work. But if you change that much, then it's not really that thing anymore, is it? Why did you bother using the source material in the first place? Why didn't you just make your own thing? So that's where I am. This was my Wheel of Time. Let's start off by listing what I liked. David Morrissey is the Nazi soldier who hasn't quite realized the scope of the atrocities he will be expected to commit. Once he does realize, he is aghast, but it's too late for him. He was good, and I'd just seen him in the city, so it's always nice to recognize someone. The incomparable Irene Pappas made, to my mind, a perfect Drusilla. Although again, she's described as ugly in the book, and yeah, right. Nicolas Cage actually learned to play the mandolin, so hats off to him. As said, I learned from this movie that Pelagia is actually pronounced Pelagia. The more you know. The locations were beautiful, and the music was nice, and let's just touch on a few things here. We have Corelli, where I consider Nicolas Cage a bit old, but he's fine, just fine. Inexplicably, the character speaks perfect Greek and can translate things, as first shown in a scene where he mediates between the Italian invaders and the town government. This scene is not in the book. Next, we have Mandras, here played by Christian Bale. Instead of a descent into a revenge quest from a persecution-complexed dime store psychologist I am, we get a guy who's halfway decent. who first is angry with Corelli, and when his fellow fighters do obviously heinous acts, does not try to stop them, but then he realizes Corelli is a good guy and helps him out, after which he comes to terms with Pelagia, having fallen out of love with him and in love with the handsome Italian, and he just leaves one night, out of her life and out of the movie. There are many other minor things, like Pelagia entering the Caffeinia without anyone's commenting, when in the book that's purely a man's world. And Carlo not being a particularly big guy, he's supposed to be like a proto-giant. And another extremely minor character being written in just so they can make another couple of scenes that didn't happen in the book. And speaking of, that scene with the dance with the soldiers and the village girls, like what the heck even was that? And the fact that most of the main actors are not Greek at all. Now we come to the main parts. And there are too many of these. After the war, there is an earthquake. It is mentioned in the book as a pretty major occurrence, so I can only figure that this was an actual thing that happened. However, in the movie it is moved up time-wise by 5 years, and Dr. Yannis, who was supposed to perish, survives. Next, Carlo is done so damn dirty by this film, I could barely even find a picture of him. He's barely in it at all, and there's no allusion to his sexual preferences whatsoever, which, honestly, that part, the movie came out in 2001. This is not entirely unexpected. But he was such a major character, and so important, and so beloved by the reader. And that changes to, oh, that quiet guy who was in a few scenes and had a short bit of lines where he said he would protect the captain and then steps in front of him at the firing squad. I mean, seriously, that is literally it. This is Carlo Erasure. Speaking of erasure, there is no Bunios whatsoever. He was instrumental in getting Corelli out of the island once it was overrun by Nazis, but here it is that Mandras fellow who's really not such a bad guy after all. Next! Oh, I am not done here. We have Drusilla. Her character is watered down. There is a promising start with her being much like in the book, but then she becomes peripheral. Just a mother loyal to her son and not too happy with his fiancée for apparently getting hooked by another. Then once the Nazis get there, they drag her off and shoot her. This did not happen. Drusilla was always a smart cookie who saw things for what they were. In the book, she survives the war and moves in with Pelagia. They find a little girl baby on their doorstep and raise her as their own. They create a matriarchal found family. The older woman starts a taverna, which becomes very popular with tourists, and dies in her sleep of old age in her rocking chair. May we all be so fortunate. And the last major change I will touch on. After the earthquake, Corelli shows up and is reunited with Pelagia. All is well and happy, and they will presumably live out their lives together. This did not happen in that way. As said, the women create a matriarchal found family. This is because of the passing of Dr. Yannis, and also because Corelli does, but does not, come back. Basically, he's an idiot. Pelagia is taking care of her newfound baby out in the yard. She looks up to see what appears to be Corelli in the street, but he disappears instantly. Just scarpers. And she believes that he must be a ghost. What actually happened was, he saw her with a baby, assumed she was married, and decided to just lit out of there right away because he didn't want to disturb her newfound happiness. Although he does return periodically just to see her, he doesn't speak to her, nor does he take steps to confirm his assumptions. The years go by, and they end up living separate lives. And that is brilliant of the author, because you as a reader, along with Pelagia, are wondering if he's ever going to come back. However, as the reader, you see that there's still quite a bit more to the book. There are chapters and chapters going by, and time is going by, and you're going, okay, he's got to show up eventually. Well, he finally does come back. When Pelagia's adopted daughter is grown and has given her a grandson. Needless to say, Pelagia has some words as well as some throne plates for Corelli, and we share in her frustration. Then they finally live out the rest of their lives together. But the book makes them, and us, work for it. In its way, it's a far more satisfactory ending, which perhaps because it's not the traditional romantic Hollywood ending many of us have come to expect. And that's the problem here. This movie is Hollywood. Now, I like Hollywood films, but it can't be denied that many of them have their tropes and go off much the same type of script. They're not commonly known for their originality. This adaptation has stripped out everything that made the book full and rich, and we are left with a milquetoast film. A story that could have been about any two people, at any time, at any place, with any supporting characters. It feels like a paint-by-numbers film. And I feel for de Bernieres, who really disliked the film. It's gotta be so tough as an author seeing your baby just done dirty like that. The shots are at times sumptuous and sweeping, but just there's nothing there. You scratch the surface and it's just surface. Okay, so those were my thoughts, and boy did I have them, didn't I? Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and end it now. Have you read the book? Have you seen the movie? What are your thoughts? I do very much want to know, so put them in the comments, please, oh please, oh please. Are there any other adaptions you can think of that I can check out? Please put those down there too. Until next week, watch more movies, read more books, experience the stories, whatever I'm doing here. Take care of yourselves and each other. I really, really mean that. And I will see you next week. Bye now.